it keeps on going. Antonio Brown is still dealing with the foot issue he suffered after a cryotherapy session several weeks ago. But the bigger issue seems to be his helmet. Brown is unable to get his decade-old helmet recertified for this season, and GM Mike Mayock is tired of it being a problem.
Here's the bottom line. He's upset about the helmet issue. We have supported that. We appreciate that. Okay, but at this point, we've pretty much exhausted all avenues of relief. So from our perspective, it's time for him to be all in or all out. So we're hoping he's back soon. We got 89 guys busting their tails. We are really excited about where this franchise is going, and we hope AB is going to be a big part of it starting week 1 against Denver. End of story. No question.
All right, let's head to Minneapolis and welcome in our Tom Pelissero. Tom, I know you're getting ready for that Seahawks-Vikings game. I want to talk about that in just a bit, but we know Antonio Brown not in camp. What more can you tell us?
Amber, this is all about a player safety issue, and the NFL and the NFL Players Association have been working hand in hand on this really since April, when they first notified Antonio Brown that he was wearing a helmet that was over 10 years old, that no longer could be certified, and thus could not be worn in games. Well, Brown challenged that through the collectively bargained grievance process. A neutral arbitrator ruled against him. At that point, Brown set out to find a newer version of the same discontinued helmet, the Shoot Air Advantage. He was able to do that. So on Monday night, the NFL and the NFLPA got together and jointly decided that they would have to laboratory test that model of helmet just like they do every other helmet worn by every other NFL player. So the Union League got a 2011 model of this helmet, sent it to the same lab in Ottawa that tests all the other helmets. It failed those tests. The biomechanical engineers in Ottawa communicated that to the engineers from the NFL and the NFLPA. At that point, everyone concurred, and thus this helmet cannot be worn in games. So the question is, where do things go from here? Antonio Brown is out of appeals under the CBA. The only thing he potentially could try is to file a lawsuit and get a temporary injunction that would allow him to wear his old helmet while that goes through the courts. That would certainly be considered a legal long shot. I did reach out to his attorney, who had no comment at this time. And by the way, Mike Mayock's strong comments today would seem to set the stage for potential discipline if Brown continues to stay away.
In the meantime,
continue to get you up to speed on that game ahead of kickoff. But until then, let's double back to Antonio Brown, because we heard what Mike Mayock had to say. Some convincing comments there. Exhausted all avenues of relief. End of story. No question. He said either he's all in or all out. So, TD, what do you make of what Mike Mayock had to say about Antonio Brown right now?
He has put the Raiders in a position where they have to come out and make a stand. And Mike had to make that stand, because right now, everybody's watching what's happening in Oakland right now. You have your main receiver, your all-star receiver, refusing to show up because he has a helmet issue. The issue is not with the Raiders. It's with the NFL, I guess. And so you're making this thing where you're doing these moves and you're putting them in a position where every week they're defending your actions.
Does them being on Hard Knocks, does that magnify that even more? Because you said that it's happening in front of all of our faces, but it literally is happening.
I don't even think it has to be on Hard Knocks. I think we've seen the drama. Yeah. We've seen what's happening. And so for him to keep doing what he's doing, Mike had to come out and make the stand. Now, I'm curious about this. What if Antonio says, okay, I'm not all in?
I know. Ultimatums can go one way or another.
That's the question. That's the line drawn in the sand that I didn't think that this organization would make, because they've been so patient with him throughout this whole process. They could have fined AB day one he walked out of that locker room. And I think a lot of other teams would have fined their star player to get them back. Probably would have rescinded the fines, but at some point they would have let it be known, here's your fine, you got to come show up. And so for them to have been as patient as they have with him, and like you said, TD, this ain't even about the Raiders organization. This is about a helmet. And at the end of the day, my message to AB is a simple one. We all like what's comfortable for ourselves. But at the end of the day, it is about your safety. It is about getting you home to your kids when your career is over. Put on the helmet that's certified, that will help protect you. Trust me, man, you will not feel that big a difference. Everybody joked me in college for wearing this ugly helmet. But it was new at the time, and the technology was supposed to help with concussions. Cool, sign me up. I go back and I look at some pictures in college. I'm like, oh, why did I wear that helmet?
But it worked.
But I was protected, absolutely.
But the Raiders have to make this stand. And the world is watching right now on how they handle AB.
Well, Protection is paramount, especially for Antonio Brown, the man who led the league in receiving touchdowns a season ago with 15, hoping to bring some of that to the silver and black in 2019.